Research released last year gives us an idea of the 12 most sexually satisfied countries in the world. We're going to have a look at that now. It starts off with Switzerland, it goes on to Spain and Italy, and our African brothers and sisters in Nigeria make number 10. Unfortunately, South Africa is nowhere to be found on this list, so I'm joined in studio by psychologist and sexologist Marlies Swart, who's going to speak to us a little bit more about perhaps why South Africa didn't make the cut. Marlies, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Now, your job is probably the most fun job in the world.
Well, I guess it sounds if you really like it. It can be hard at times, but it can be it's extremely fascinating.
So speak to us about what you do.
Well, I'm a trained psychologist, and I decided to specialize in sexual issues for men and women, and I work with adults only, and I see everything. So I'm also Health 24's expert psychologist, a sex expert, and so with that you really see everything, because people write in anonymous, and once it's anonymous they just ask anything. So I can just say it's a fascinating job.
Now, I'm so glad that you're here today, and I feel like we can ask you anything. So let's get into it. I want to have a look at some of these countries on the list. We started off with Switzerland, Spain, and Italy. They're all very sexually satisfied, it says, but I'm very, very interested about Nigeria, because according to Durex, Nigeria is rated the #1 sexually satisfied nation in the world in terms of the length of sexual sessions, 24 minutes per average session.
I don't know, and this is my problem with surveys that are not peer, professional scholastic research, right. Because I think it's a condom company that did this.
That's right.
So we have no idea about their methodologies. I was totally surprised with Nigeria being one, and in fact I was surprised with most of the countries that they've picked. And the reasons why they've given it was also not very convincing to me, because we're looking at sexual satisfaction, and then often they would quote sexual adventure, examples of sexual adventure type of activities like threesomes and having sex outside in nature. Now that doesn't necessarily contribute to satisfaction. You might just have a partner that was adventurous one night, or you might just have done it one time, or you might have done it when you were both quite drunk and decided never to do it again. So that actually doesn't have much relevance to satisfaction.
So what is sexual satisfaction then?
That is the million-dollar question, because if I'm going to ask everybody around here, I'm going to get a different definition. And so that is the problem with research. They've never really been successful in narrowing down the definition of satisfaction, because for one person it might be getting an orgasm during sex. For another person it might just be sexual. They're just showing up and they're taking part. For another person it might be having sex 3 times a week. So another person might be, how do I rate if I compare myself to my girlfriend? So now the research surveys, as I say, and they're not scholarly research articles, but all they ask people is, how sexually satisfied are you? Now, can you imagine? Every person is going to say a different thing. And then we have the added problem that people lie. Like if somebody comes to me and say, listen, we're writing an article on the 12 most sexually satisfied country in the world, and we're talking about South Africa. I'm going to lie throughout the whole thing, because I want South Africa to get on that list. So how many people in Nigeria might not have done it? I don't know. How many people are the other people on the list sort of, they vowed to get their country on the list? Yeah, you mentioned about Nigeria and that they last 24 minutes?
24 minutes, yes.
Now, I think we'll have to call the Guinness Book of Records, because the average number of minutes for most of the other mortals like us and yourself, usually that is 6 to 7 minutes. Now again, we don't know about the research. Did they start putting the stopwatch on when they start with foreplay, and then they ended, it went right through, and they ended with that. They could have done that, because again, we haven't read the researches, the methodology. So my feeling is that there's something wrong there, because the average person lasts about 6 to 7 minutes just for intercourse. I'm not counting the foreplay or the afterplay. So I'm not buying that.